So, so to illustrate the answer to this problem and more broadly what I do for a living, I'll share something that I was working on just today, like around 2 p.m. Does everybody know who Emma Stone is, the actress?
I know of her, but that's
Of
about it.
her, yes. She was recently in this movie called Begonia last year. More recently, in the last few years, have has been acting in movies called Kinds of Kindness, Poor Things. She's been Cruella. She was in this movie about a decade ago called La La Land. She is probably going to win her third Oscar this year. Now, I work for a movie studio. And the movie studio wants to know if they are going to be making a movie with Emma Stone, who would be a good actor to cast opposite her? And there are several options, right? Like you can cast Jonathan Bailey, you can cast Henry Cavill, or if you want to do something crazy, you can cast J.K. Simmons. When they ask this kind of a question to somebody like me, what do I do with it? I organize it in a graph. I organize some parameters. I space them out on this graph, and I try to understand, based on a known pairing of Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, who have been together in a movie, well, three movies so far, and have been fairly successful pair. Which of these three pairs, prospective pairs, would be very close to the success of Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone together? So I organize these points on a graph, and now I need to find out how close are each of those 2 points. Like which of these pairs is the closest to that one pair that we know is gold standard. So the line that would be shortest is probably the pair that what we're going to go ahead with. That's how we like to organize this to try to answer that question, which is probably very creative in nature, but has a lot of business and strategy implications. Where does Pythagoras theorem come into this? That's how we calculate the distance. Because every line on this graph is essentially a right angle triangle, which we can use Pythagoras theorem to calculate the distance for. If you can answer this question, then, using this same method, you can also answer the question, which stock should I buy? Should I buy Amazon and Netflix? Should I buy Amazon and Nvidia? Should I buy GameStop and AMC? Or should I just go with gold? If you can answer this question, then you can also answer the question, where should Walmart open its next two stores? Should they open it in downtown LA? Should they open it in Anaheim? Long Beach, Hollywood? Or which combination would be a good combination to go ahead with? And as a management consultant, that's really what I do. I use concepts from physics, math, and chemistry, like Pythagoras theorem, for example, to apply in business and strategy context to solve these kind of problems that businesses face day to day. Which industry? I've worked with all kinds of industries. I gave you an example from Hollywood. I've worked with video games. I've worked with guitar manufacturing companies, with finance companies, with retail, with consumer goods, you name it, I've probably worked with it. One thing that I like to stay away from is healthcare because I don't understand healthcare. So I try to stay away as far as away from it as possible. But how does one become a management consultant? Most STEM graduates, they have an opportunity to become a management consultant. I am a mechanical engineer. That's what I studied in college. I know people who've studied to be neurosurgeons who have become excellent management consultants down the line. A lot of them study business degrees. They do their BBAs and MBAs and then go down this career path. But that's not really a necessity requirement. Like I don't have an MBA. All I do have is a bachelor's in engineering. That's it. And that's really what I do. I've known people who have used extremely complex nuclear physics to answer business questions um, uh, like the stock question that I was talking about, or I've known people who have used core chemistry questions to answer these kind of to set up these kind of strategy questions. It's all a question of being able to draw that inspiration from STEM and applying it to business problems. Any questions for me?
So, like, basically, you apply math to use to like calculate and strategize based on those findings.
Yes, that's what I
Um,
do.
okay. So was like at what point of your life did you did you kind of like get into it later in college, or did you like click with it at a certain point of your life and it's like I want to do this?
So by the time I reached about third year to final year of engineering, I realized that I was probably better on the business side of engineering than on the technical side of engineering. And sure, like engineering is fun. You know, you get to do a lot of fun stuff like make cars, for example, or develop your own IC engines. But when I reached final year, I realized that the problems of how to pick up 100 units of a particular material from point A and transport it to points B, C, and D in the required amount of time to be able to support the production processes in those places, that problem appealed a lot more to me than the core technical issue of how the production process should work. So I finally had engineering. I realized that economics and business strategy was more of my interest than the core engineering probably. And that is when I started looking into technical consulting companies and management consulting companies, which is how after leaving college I got into this field.
All right. So basically you kind of you like you were on one path and then you kind of switched switched a bit but still continued doing what you like studied for kind of.
Right. Yes, because this is still a part of engineering. I still studied this as a part of my undergraduate courses. Think of it like picking a subset of engineering to pursue down a career path.
I see, I see.
What else?
I also got a question. So, what's like the hardest thing you consulted?
Hardest thing I've consulted on? Let's see. Uh, this was in the southwestern rural Australia. There was this nickel plant that we were working on, and we actually had to be flown in because there was no way to go through it by road. It was in the middle of wilderness and desert, and they told us that as a part of mining nickel, there is a lot of lithium that comes in the things that we dig out of the earth, and lithium was complete wasted resource for them. And we are talking about this back in 2016, 2017, when the electric car industry and the battery industry hadn't shot up, or it was just beginning to start shooting up. So one of the questions that they had for us was, should we dig up all our trash and start getting pulling lithium out of it to start selling it, or do you think that trash is just trash and it's not going to take off? So, in my opinion, for me personally, that was one of the hardest questions I've ever had to answer because the future of electric car industry was so unstable at that point that us telling them to start digging up 50, 60 years of trash to pull lithium out of it and then sell to refine it and sell it as a marketable product was a considerable risk. But eventually, as we know today, the effort paid off, and I think they're much happier today about it.
I see, I see. That's really nice.
I have a question. So, what was the hardest like part in your career, or like any hard years for you?
So, um, I'm not a huge fan of traveling, except as a management consultant, I have to travel 4 days a week. And by travel, I don't mean commuting downtown to from where I live. I'm talking about flying down across the country and taking maybe like 5 hour flights or 7 hour flights every Monday. The stage that I am in my career, that has gone down considerably, where I maybe need to fly once in 3 months or so. But there was a time where for a 3 year period in Australia, I did not have a house. I was just living out of hotels. And this was not because I could not afford a house, but it was more of because I used to have a house in India, but because all my clients were in Australia, I had to bounce between hotels for 3 years just living out of a suitcase. So it sounds like an adventurous prospect, and I'm sure a lot of you would love to live out of a suitcase and live out of hotels and live the high flying life. Uh, I realized very fast that that was not for me.
No, no, I share that sentiment. I don't really like traveling either. So, okay. So, like, in that case, do you regret going into this career now because of
I,
that?
I don't think I do. Because yes, traveling is annoying. Yes, you probably have to spend maybe 12 hours in a lounge in Singapore airport, just, making sure you are just enough rested to, not fall asleep at the wrong time, but not having overslept to have missed your flight to the next city over. Yes, there's going to be those kind of times, and yes, you're probably going to be tired and working maybe long hours. However, it is worth it. It's rewarding in its own way because you see the kind of work that you do come into practice day after day. Because, for example, in 2027, when this movie releases, I will know that I influenced the decision of whether to cast Jonathan Bailey or Henry Cavill in the movie. Apart from that, there is also the perks. Management consultants get some of the best office spaces. Like in Australia, I had the view of the Sydney Opera House from my office. In Dubai, I had the view of Burj Khalifa from my office. In Tokyo, I had a view of Mount Fuji from my office. So yes, those are the perks that you also get with this.
I have a question. Did you know any like connections that led you to becoming a consultant?
Connections, as in.
Yeah, like mentors or friends or teachers.
Yes, I would say networking, and I'm sure that this is true for all professions, but networking is probably one of the really, really important parts of being a consultant. My personal network when it comes to colleges in the US is limited because I became a consultant when I was in India and then started traveling around. However, there are a lot of business groups within your colleges itself. They do entrepreneur groups, they do workshops. A lot of management consultants go to colleges and work with students to encourage going down this career path. So yes, there are a lot of different platforms which you could use to network into this. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
What else?
I have another question. So you say you like travel at the time. How come you can't just like go on Zoom meeting with other people?
How do I what?
Like since you don't like traveling, right? How come you can't like consult with people through Zoom?
That is a very hotly contested topic in today's world, especially because COVID showed us that it is very possible for us to work over Zoom and far away from each other. A lot of people they prefer a personal touch. A lot of people they prefer to have these kind of discussions over lunch. A lot of people prefer to have these kind of discussions over happy hours. So yes, sometimes it does become somewhat of a preference, really, about whether people like talking over Zoom or whether people like talking face to face. In some cases, it becomes necessary because, for example, there was this one time when I was working with a copper mining company, which was located 3 hours out in the desert from Phoenix, Arizona, and we were asked to help them with their milling operations of the stuff that comes out of the ground. You actually have to grind it into fine particles to be able to then process it further. So their operation was not grinding it fine enough. And to be able to understand what's happening, sure, like I can look into the data, I can look into what's going on, I can ask them to give me all the download over Zoom. But sometimes you have to go and you have to stand and stare at the whole equipment in front of it for like 5 minutes, and then you just automatically get a solution. It's the reality of life. Of course, there are a lot of people who are very successful, just preferring to stay over Zoom and communicating over it. A lot of people require that level of flexibility as well.
Yeah, I have a question. Since you travel like around the world, is there kind of a language barrier when talking with other people, or do you like know other languages?
That is a very good question. Um, in short, because management consulting takes you around the world, they have presence in different parts of the world as well, which means they hire people from different parts of the world. In case my expertise is required in, say, South American offices where, they require me to speak Portuguese, which I do not, I can either recommend somebody who is in one of our South American offices who would potentially be able to solve that problem, transcending that language barrier. Or if they cannot do it without me, then I'm flown down there. They give me a translator. It's not the best solution, but if it works, it works. So yes, a lot of people, they end up learning a lot of different languages. I am horrible at languages. I barely speak three. So I don't think I could learn another language even if I tried.